Okay, I'm Mr. Orloff. I'm going to, in this video, just go through everything about the book and what I thought over it because I was going to write it through literary notes, but I'm feeling pretty behind lately. So I'm just going to make a video about my thoughts on the book instead. So I read this book, I finished it a couple weeks ago. So my memory isn't that great, but on my literary notes, I already wrote about the title, the background, setting. Actually, I'm going to go a little more through the setting. So, especially the Jungle Swimming Souls, they start out, or the book starts out, talking about this place, and the name really stood out to me. It was so significant because when you hear Screaming Souls, it doesn't sound like it's horrible. And this is how I interpreted the title of the book too. I'm just gonna read it again. So that I think the word sorrow really fits the book. Let me read what I wrote because it's based on memoirs and there's no over. Okay, there. Even though this is a war book, it's unconventional because a lot of war books have, an underlying meaning behind things, and they would tell their opinions on the politics and the corruptness of the government during that era of time. However, Bao Nin didn't really write about anything regarding politics. It was solely based on personal experiences as a soldier. So this whole book is not about the war itself or like the politics of war. It's about just human nature and how regular people will perceive such um, crises or uh, these conflicts in themselves. It's not conflict between ideas, it's conflict in between human emotions. So that's one thing that I looked at while reading through the entire book. I realized that it's it's a collection of memoirs, and anyone in the world could, even though they have not gone through such a terrifying or like sorrowful crisis in their life, like being a soldier in war, they could understand the reasons behind it without knowing the background of the Vietnam War, because it's not about the Vietnam War. It's about um, being a soldier. So that said, I feel sorrow was a really great word. It defines the entire novel. It's not about politics. It's about an ordinary soldier, and sorrow is a really hollow feeling. Something like it feels like it's something empty in chest, something you're yearning. You're yearning for something, but you don't know what you're yearning for, and you're sorrowful because you don't have what you're yearning for. There's a hole in your chest, and so I feel that sorrow, in a sense, in this book at least, it's worse than sadness. And sadness is a passing feeling. It comes and leaves. Sorrow never really leaves. It's always empty. It lingers, and sorrow is worse than terror because terror frightens. This, um, it just it frightens your brain. It frightens your mind. You're scared for that moment. But sorrow frightens your entire soul, right? And that's what this book's about. It's about being so haunted that it's not terrifying, it's sorrowful. And it's not horror yet again because horror is kind of like a felt experience. If you watch a horror movie, it, you feel the horror in it. And even though this book, in my opinion, there was so much horror, not the sense that it's horrifying, scary, but it's so depressing um, that it's horrifying. But even that, this book's more than just a horror. I felt reading it. It's about it's about the experience that Bao Nin had gone through, or the narrator, uh, Kian. Um, it's not just a feeling; it's an experience, and that's why it's sorrowful, and that's why I feel that sorrow was such a great, perfect word for the title. Now, going later to the name of the Jungle of Screaming Souls. That sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie. But you've got to understand that screaming is terrifying. It's horrible. horrifying, right? Just like I said before about sorrow, but something about a soul screaming instead of like a person screaming. It's more term. It's about morals being gone. That you've corrupted a human so much, you've destroyed them so much that nothing else is screaming except for their soul. Only their soul's left. The whole body's gone, like the corpse is gone, right? So that's something in the jungle screaming souls is all these dead soldiers in there, and their whole probably the memory of them is gone. They probably have a huge family, and the family who do remember them will possibly die away. They are a lot of young men, so they haven't started their own family yet. So it's just their parents, their siblings. They're going to be gone soon, right? What's left of them, there's no more memory left of them. Their body is not identified. They're all John Does out there in the jungle. No one really knows who they are. They don't really have, identity cards on them. They just pass. There's nothing living for them anymore. There's nothing worth living for. Now, the fact that they're still screaming, their souls were still screaming, means that their life was just cut right there before it ended. Their souls are still screaming and speaking because they've got more. They expected more to say in their journey of life, but it was cut short so fast. And now going to the part where it's entire jungle, right? It's very haunting because everywhere you go, there are thousands of screaming souls in there, and who knows where they're wandering. And it's very terrifying. It's horrifying. Not again, not the fact that it's scary, but it's just so you cannot describe it. It's very disappointing, and no, it's just horrifying and terrifying, but not in the scary way, in the haunting way. Okay, so point of view, it is being it's been narrated by a third person, but it does the narration does follow the life of Kian. It is a memoir, and I think that it because it is a memoir, it reflects a lot of Baonin's personal experiences in war, right? And so I think it is more effective writing in a narration rather than in first person, in Kian's point of view, because I feel like you're looking down on the story as probably like God or something, some outside being, unrelated, right? So instead of feeling the feelings that Kian felt, you feel the pity for him. And I think that is worth more in this kind of book than actually feeling personal feelings. Because, um, oh boy, it's bell ring. I mean, you still feel personal experiences just because the narration follows off Kian's stories, but now you're looking at it like you're looking at the story like you're God, right? And so you find more disappointment in the whole nature of humans than rather the people that Kian encountered himself, right? So writing in third person kind of broadens the general idea of saying that there's so much corruptedness in war and it's so terrifying. Instead of, oh, this man is terrifying because he pointed a gun at someone and like killed someone and it was scary that way, right? Um, so I feel like that's an important part of why writing in a narration was more successful than writing in first person. Um, but still, uh, the narration not only gives Kian's point of view, it also it enables Baonin to jump perspectives. Like he could write about, probably write about Fong or write about the other battalion soldiers and what their experiences were like because that's how God views all of us, right? He doesn't only follow one person's story, he follows everyone else's. But of course, the whole book is is based on Keating's story because it is a memoir from about now the plot was very confusing when I read the entire book. Note that I read the entire book before I started like answering questions and stuff, right? Because for me, I feel that analyzing things while I'm reading kind of distracts me from the my initial thoughts on the book. So now I'm going to talk about the plot based on my initial thoughts and not after the final thought after I analyzed it. Okay, so it was really confusing because Meme does jump from date to date. It wasn't very. It's not a timeline. Like it's very nostalgic in a sense that as a person, when you think about memories, you don't think about them in order. You think about them when the memories evoked, right? Uh, so that in a sense makes the timeline a little confusing when I first read it, because I did not know when things or if things had happened beforehand that I already read, or if I skipped a couple major events. Um, like it wasn't chronological, so I didn't know. Sometimes the setting was very confusing because I thought nothing happened yet, but it jumped back and forth, so it was confusing in that way. But after I finished it, I really, really like fell in love with the way he wrote the entire novel without order because it's like it's as if um it's exactly how someone would view his life if he's thinking through memories, right? They're not in chronological order, but based on the importance of how it happened to his life. And especially as a person, you kind of link events in your life differently. There are so many different webs. Like there's the romance part, there's the growing up part, the buildings roaming part. I mean, and even though those two timelines intertwine, right, they're still separate. And so when you're talking about one story, like if you're talking about buildings roaming, you talk about the one timeline. And then you talk about romance and it interflows, like it's within the same time frame, right? But it's different because you're talking about two different subjects rather than going by chronological order. And that's what Amy did a lot. When he was talking about good memories, things that evoke um, passive feelings, that was one subject, right? He wrote in subjects of his life, his feelings on life, rather than how it happened to him. And so that's how the plot developed, and that's what I ended up. It was difficult to read at first, but once I finished it, I really enjoyed understanding that these are not events, these are memories. Um, and what he recollects and what he tells of them were his emotions about those memories instead of what actually happened. You sometimes I mean can you read what happened in that scene, like how everyone was massacred, or how every um like small trivial events too in his life in the battalion. But what made it important was how the reader felt from it, or how the narrator directly tells you what he has felt from it. It's a it's a book about emotions, not events. All right, so I'm gonna stop right here, and then I'll finish. Um, I'll do a separate video